Let's talk about running an SED or an ED initiative through an intermediary. That would be like using somebody else to run a program for you.
That's right.
Can I do that with BE, and what should I look out for?
You can definitely do that with BE. In fact, for most companies, it's the preferable way to go.
Oh, okay.
Because I am an engineering company. Development of small businesses is not my core business. Why do I want to go through that hassle? So it's actually easier, more beneficial to me as an organization to outsource it to an organization that specializes or has the skills or has the systems in place to be able to do that. The things you have to look out for when doing that is when you're getting close to year end and you've realized you now need to spend money, you need to make sure that if you're putting it into an intermediary, that you've given them enough time to make sure that they find the money and spend it before your measurement period, or if that is not possible, that they themselves are beneficiary. Because in terms of the codes, the money must have been spent in your measurement period for you to have claimed points.
Okay, so I can, if they're actually a qualifying beneficiary, I can make the contribution towards them and claim that value.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. So you have two options. You can give it directly to them or give it to them to pass on. Okay. Where that works really nicely, where you are in a tight situation and you need to do things very quickly. So you have realized you've under budgeted, for instance, and you need to spend, let's say, 500,000 Rand in 2 days' time to get your 4 points. You would then source an intermediary who is themselves a qualifying beneficiary. That way you can always claim the money actually has been spent with the beneficiary.
Right.
You can then, after your measurement period, get the intermediary to pay that money onto other beneficiaries.
Okay. And then if I'm now giving them this contribution and it's not going to them as a beneficiary but going to another entity, another beneficiary through them as an intermediary,
All right.
That money that I spend with them, obviously they need to survive, they need to operate.
Absolutely.
Can you claim some of that? How does that work?
You can. Best practice has dictated that a maximum of 15% of whatever contributions you give should be used for administration purposes.
Okay.
That 15% though is capped at 80% in terms of what you can claim as an ED contribution. Because in terms of what's called the benefit factor matrix, 80% of administration costs are claimable as ED contributions. The nice thing, however, though, is if that intermediary is also a company with a BE certificate, you claim that under procurement as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Aha. Okay, so let's put this as numbers.
Right.
So if I've got R1 million, let's talk about enterprise development. I have R1 million that I need to spend as a target to claim full points. If I give that to an intermediary, 15%, so what are we talking?
150,000.
Okay. Now that 150,000, you say is 80%?
Which is 120.
Okay, so that's what would count.
Exactly. So what, in terms of what your contribution to enterprise development would be,
okay, it
would be the 850,000 Rand actual money that goes to the beneficiaries, and then the 120, which is 80% of the 15%, 150,000 Rand administration fee. So what is that? 970,000 Rand essentially is what you would claim of the R1 million as an actual ED contribution.
Okay.
And then the 150,000 Rand, which is the administration fee, you can also claim
as procurement. So long as they're a qualifying beneficiary.
So exactly, as long as they are a company that has a BE certificate.
Okay, brilliant. So in essence, it would seem like I'd be 30,000 Rand short, but in actual fact, I'm 150,000 plus.
Because you're scoring on
procurement as well.
That's right.
And it takes away the headache of having to manage it.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay. And now for SED, is it the same?
No.
Okay.
SED, because most companies who are intermediaries are themselves SED beneficiaries because they're administration companies, you need to be very careful. So if you're getting a company who's purely administration or project management company to do your SED, that the money must be spent with actual beneficiaries before the end of your measurement period.
Okay.
So there it becomes a bit trickier. For SED, you have to do a lot better planning than you need to do with ED.
Okay, but essentially you can do the same thing where it's
you can do it through an intermediary.
And the percentage-wise on the administration?
Same thing.
Same thing, okay. The only difference being that must be spent. Totally, okay. Now, so with ED, you don't have to spend the total? Must the program just be rolling? How does that work?
You don't have to spend the total. The program must be initiated
Okay.
and implemented.
Aha. The key is on the implemented.
The key is on the
Okay.
implemented, exactly. Because if you're putting in a project to assist a company to grow from a small enterprise to a medium enterprise, that could be a 3-year project.
Mm.
So it wouldn't make sense for all of that money to be spent up front.
Mm.
And also the way you manage your projects, you don't give a beneficiary everything up front. You would stagger the payments. So you'd pay for training when the training occurs. If you were doing the salary payments, you'd pay that on a monthly basis. So in terms of your project plan, the money is never going to be spent all up front. It would be paid over the lifetime of the project.
Okay, good. And then as far as reporting that, I mean, what do I need to show? Because, beneficiary is one thing. You have to show what the beneficiary is and how much you gave and prove that. But now it's going through somebody else. So what documentation or how does that work?
Okay, so if you're doing it through an intermediary, you need to have an agreement in place between yourself and that intermediary, specifying what that intermediary's duties are.
Okay.
You need to have a mandate in place saying, we've given you this money, this is how we as the company who's contributing this money once it's spent. Okay. So you're not leaving the payment or the discretion of who the money gets spent with up to the intermediary. It's your money. Okay. You make the decisions, you control it.
Mm.
You put in place requirements that the intermediary gives you regular reports.
Okay.
Where was the money spent? How was it spent? How are we checking? Do they have the correct financial support, financial reporting requirements? Make sure all of that is in place.
And then at the end, should the intermediary actually give you a package or something for your verification?
Yes.
Okay.
So what you should get is the agreement, the mandate, from the beneficiaries, proof that the beneficiaries actually qualify.
Right.
So their ID documents, shareholders agreements, CK documents, all the rest of it. Proof of payment. So what have we spent? Or if we haven't spent it all, what is the plan? So proper project planning, that sort of thing.
And these guys should know that. So
They should know that.
No, that's what I need to look out for, that they actually do know
That's
what
right.
to present.
Yeah.
Give me a full breakdown.
Exactly. And you want to use companies who are reputable project managers, that they know how to do project management.
Mm.
And also that they have the correct financial controls in place. So you want to be able to see financial records. You should be able to ask them for their financial records to say, who's actually managing my money? Is it just sitting in your own bank account, or do you have a separate bank account where your company's operational expenses aren't mixed up with my ED contributions? So those are the sort of things you want to look out for.
Oh, okay. So something like a fund or something where the money is specifically
right.
designated for projects.
Yes.
Okay.
That intermediary must have that separate. Otherwise, how are they checking where the money is?
Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.